I'm honored to welcome Ken Hersh as our 2017 December commencement speaker. Since 2016, he has served as the President and Chief Executive Officer of the George W. Bush Presidential Center. The Bush Center, located on our beautiful campus, is comprised of the George W. Bush Institute and the Bush Library and Museum. The Institute focuses its efforts on developing leaders, advancing policy on domestic and global initiatives inspired by the work of President and Mrs. Bush. And it's taking action on a number of today's most pressing challenges. Ken is widely admired for his strategic thinking, innovation, and leadership in both business and nonprofit sectors. He and his wife, Julie, have made a very positive impact in our community through their leadership on various boards and their philanthropy through the Hersh Foundation and their volunteer service. During a 2014 interview, Ken spoke about his strategy of keeping a steady pace in the boom and bust of the oil and gas industry. "I don't like boom or bust," he told the audience. "My motto is to be the fastest tortoise in the race." I think he won a lot of races. He built up Natural Gas Partners, a $150 million energy fund he co-founded in 1988, into the $17 billion private equity firm NGP Energy Capital Management, one of the nation's most successful energy private equity firms, making investments in natural resources, and he currently serves as an advisory partner at NGP. He's also served as a major advisor to the Carlyle investment firm since 2012. Prior to that, he was employed by Morgan Stanley, where he's a member of the firm's energy group. He's generous in giving his time and talents to worthy causes. He sits on some very interesting board of trustees, like the Texas Rangers Baseball Club and the Board of Overseers of the Hoover Institution. He's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, the National Council of the World American Enterprise Institute, the Dallas Citizens Council, and many others. Locally, he serves on the board of the Communities Foundation of Texas, the Baylor Healthcare Foundation, and for a number of years, till 2015, he was on the board of St. Mark's. In fact, in 2015, he received their Distinguished Alumnus Award. He was born and raised in Dallas, and after graduating from St. Mark's, he attended Princeton, where he graduated magna cum laude in 1985 with a degree in political science. In 1989, he earned his MBA from Harvard's Graduate School of Business, where he graduated as an R.J. Miller Scholar, one of the school's highest academic honors. So will you join me in welcoming, as our 2017 December commencement speaker, Mr. Ken Hersh.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. Thank you, Board of Trustees, Board President Boone, faculty and staff, friends, and these great graduates of 2017. These ceremonies are indeed interesting. We get to recognize the accomplishments of graduates in a ceremony that I always wondered why was so somber. Serene music, we march out in robes, we wear stiff hats that don't quite fit right, and they're not that comfortable. How do I look? Well, I'm not that comfortable right now, not only because of my outfit, but because my mom is here. I have an early memory of being in the upper deck here when she was on stage in 1966 to be awarded the first PhD ever bestowed on a woman at SMU. And now I'm down here and she's up there. What a difference 51 years makes. Mom, I promise to use good pronunciation and speak slowly. Also, in an era of disinvited commencement speakers, I want to thank you for letting my invitation stand. When Dr. Turner invited me, I was honored and a bit humbled, and then it sank in. This talk is kind of a trap. I want to say something memorable, even though I don't remember much of the commencement speakers of any of my graduations. Try not to be boring, since I'm the major speed bump between you, your diploma, a celebratory lunch with family and friends. Somehow I feel the odds are not with me. Today I've already seen tweets about the ceremony taking place, and now I wonder, will this go viral? What if I am so boring that the talk will be searchable on YouTube under the most boring commencement speeches ever? Maybe I should insert a cat video, and that'll help it amplify my words. Or should I say something really shocking and with the board right behind me? Today, we live our lives in stereo, with sets of proverbial speakers, not only in front of us and behind us, but all around us. And originally, I did have a modest goal, just to end up not on the worst graduation list, especially also because my daughter is here. So to get us pumped up last night, she took us to see Star Wars, which is a great movie, but I won't give any spoilers, but I did need a little force to get through this. So I have dismissed the parental advice strategy, so I'm not going to say things trite like follow your dreams or don't be afraid to fail. I'm just going to tell you to be uncomfortable. Then it dawned on me, why try to avoid the embarrassment by playing defensively and to not have a speech live forever on the worst list, but rather aim a little higher, affirm a set of values, and aim for one of the best lists. So feel free anytime to pull out your phones, take a selfie with the podium in the background, hashtag be uncomfortable. It's okay if this goes viral. It's your day. Trying not to be something like the most boring speech ever is really kind of easy. It's like playing defensively or not to lose. Similarly, it's easy to say what we are against, but it is much harder to say what we are for and stand up for that. It requires actually affirming a goal, a set of values, taking a stand, and it often makes us uncomfortable. Life does have discomfort, but your character is revealed on how you deal with it. Do you avoid it or minimize it? Do you respect and tolerate it? Or do you actually embrace it? Well, to make this assessment, it's important to understand my three versions of discomfort: the physical, the psychological, and what I call the transformational. First, with respect to physical discomfort, that one's easy. It's okay to try to minimize that one, unless, of course, it is critical towards a path of some greater goal. Physical training, for example, to build strength and endurance is clearly uncomfortable, but as they say, no pain, no gain. And so that is tolerable. Psychological discomfort is trickier. F. Scott Fitzgerald said that the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two competing thoughts in your head at the same time and still retain the ability to function. In general, SMU is a pretty comfortable place. But the diversity here, as in our country, has no doubt raised some topics to a level of discomfort. The issue of speech on college campuses has become one very well-trodden topic, causing discomfort. Watching conversations here play out, you already understand the nuance of the situation that this country is finding entirely uncomfortable. Our country's long-standing experiment in democracy is having an identity crisis right now, trying to reconcile two somewhat competitive notions. How can I be both for the rights of an opponent and squarely opposed to his or her cause? You see, our American democracy works precisely because these aren't competing notions at all. In fact, they go precisely together. I am, as an American, firmly supportive of two groups peacefully assembling on opposite sides of the street to express their opinions about, say, race and inclusion, for example, provided that they behave in a civilized manner. Yet, as an individual, I can know exactly which side of the street I would line up on, the one standing strongly opposed to bigotry, racism, sexism, and anti-Semitism. If the marketplace of ideas gives its 15 minutes of fame to voices expressing reprehensible racist views, I am confident that the more they are exposed, the more fringe they will become. Indeed, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Just because someone's opinions, though, differ from my own, I am clear that that isn't grounds to claim a constitutional exception. But let's be clear, this discomfort is what we need to respect and not minimize simply because it is uncomfortable. This view of freedom of expression is a tough one, I admit. But if you think a democracy with protected free speech is uncomfortable, try living in a society where such freedoms are not respected. Discomfort is the healthy byproduct of a thriving democracy. What concerns me now is that when the subject matter becomes so objectionable that we want to shut it down, understanding that it's not a legal issue, but rather a normative one. Sometimes narrow-mindedness begins in a very subtle manner. Today, simply selecting where we get our opinions is the start of a process of shutting out opinions with which we don't agree, joining a crowded throng on the road to isolation without even knowing it. As Václav Havel teaches us that the tragedy of modern man is not that he knows less and less about the meaning of his own life, but that it bothers him less and less. Exposure to ideas and opinions other than our own is a way to actually respect that discomfort. We increase our understanding of the world around us by listening. We enhance our democracy by tolerating those whose opinions differ from our own. Just like a muscle that will not get stronger until it is pushed to a limit, our inner core won't become stronger unless it is tested. Part of the curricular goals of SMU education is to expose us to a diversity in the community of ideas and challenges. And it challenges our intellect, assumptions, and biases in order to define and strengthen inner core and tolerance. I am so proud of Dr. Turner and the SMU community who have navigated this issue so well, while other notable universities are still struggling to find the means by which they can embrace diversity of opinion. My hope is that you embrace this discomfort, listen to views that counter your own, and challenge the status quo rather than retreating to safe places. Please don't give in to the easy path of restricting freedom in order to avoid the uncomfortable. I am concerned that respect for this freedom may be eroding. Researchers Foa and Maunk recently found an alarming trend. Whether it be declining confidence in government or the changing attitudes toward the values of civil liberties, fewer than 30% of millennials today believe that it is absolutely essential to live in a democracy, versus over 70% for those born prior to 1940. Even more disturbing is a recent Annenberg study that found that 37%, almost 4 out of 10 respondents, could not name a single right protected by the First Amendment. More than 30% in the study couldn't name one of the 3 branches of the federal government. And distressingly, only 59% believe that religious freedom should apply to all religions. That means 41% of respondents believe that freedom of religion only applies to certain religions. Shocking. It's time for all of us to redouble our efforts as leaders to reaffirm the rights to be diverse and to respect that source of discomfort. As President Bush so eloquently said in his Spirit of Liberty address in New York this past October, being an American involves the embrace of high ideals and civic responsibility, he said. We become the heirs of Thomas Jefferson by accepting the ideal of human dignity found in the Declaration of Independence. We become the heirs of James Madison by understanding the genius and values of the U.S. Constitution. We become the heirs of Martin Luther King Jr. by recognizing one another not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. In short, it is okay to be psychologically uncomfortable. We should respect that. As SMU graduates, don't worry. You're equipped to handle that discomfort and can all be a positive, courageous voice when diversity of opinion isn't just tolerated, it is encouraged. If you disagree, there is a way to respond. As Justice Louis Brandeis said, the fitting remedy for evil counsels is good ones. I am confident in our ability to, as F. Scott Fitzgerald said, to hold competing views in our collective heads and function at the highest of levels. When I hear anti-Semitic pronouncements, I become even more motivated to make my actions speak louder and make an even larger, more positive impact. I had the power of action when he said, "What you do speaks so loudly, I can't even hear what you say." Or to honor Ruth Altshuler, a giant of a person who did so much for this community, who we lost this week at 93 years young, an inspiration of a quote from Albert Schweitzer that she lived by: "Example is not the main thing in influencing others, it is the only thing." Finally, the most exciting form of discomfort is what I call transformational discomfort. This is the ultimate luxury of a free society. As we progress through life, there are moments where change happens and we enter that unfamiliar, uncomfortable new phases of our lives. Whether a new environment, a new relationship, becoming a parent, or taking on new responsibility, this type of discomfort is required if we are to advance and mature. Of course, if we stay in our own comfort zones and avoid moving along these life's phases, we may never experience transformational discomfort. However, by your presence here today, you have already opted out of that group. From my own experience, I relished the freedom and opportunity and didn't just seek the comfortable. After growing up in Dallas, I went to college in the Northeast, which was quite foreign. I I ended up in New Jersey, a Cowboys fan, halfway between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants home stadiums. And to boot, I was a fairly obnoxious Cowboys fan. But I went, and I was intent on going to law school. But not having a meal plan my senior year actually changed my life. I saw an ad in the Daily Princetonian for a shrimp dinner hosted by a firm called Morgan Stanley. And I had become good at finding free food around campus. I thought it was a law firm, and they offered a free meal, so that was a twofer. But when I got there, I was told that it was an investment bank. I had no idea what that was. I said, a bank, like a checking account? Because I had one of those. And they said, no, their clients don't have checking accounts at Morgan Stanley. I didn't really understand it, but the shrimp was good. So I listened. I was intrigued. I had opened my mind and my mouth. I interviewed, got a job, went to New York City, very uncomfortable. Upon arrival, they put me in the energy group since I was from Texas. However, my folks were economics professors. Man, I didn't know the difference between natural gas and gasoline. There I was, a liberal arts student in a finance job focused on an industry I knew nothing about. Again, completely uncomfortable, but I dove in. And since that time, I maintain that if you aren't completely uncomfortable on your first day of a new job, you're in the wrong job. Put yourself out, set a hurdle, back up, run, and clear it. I learned about the finance side of the energy industry, and then after business school, I was fortunate to connect with a partner who thought it would be an interesting idea to buy natural gas assets since prices were so low. A simple buy low, sell high strategy. Unfortunately, our smart thesis was dead wrong. Prices declined for 7 straight years. Man, did we look stupid. Rather than succumb, though, we changed our business model and found a strategy that wasn't really dependent upon commodity prices. In hindsight, we didn't oppose the forces, we used them. And in so doing, we built a business based upon what we could understand, and that was people. Our secret was that we understood the essence of an investment bet, a bet on the people involved. Since we don't know how to operate an oil and gas well, our job as investors became simply to identify and serve the entrepreneurs who could. We backed great managers, aligned our interests, and supported their leadership and got out of their way. They were doing the hard work. And by making a pretty good living in an industry I knew nothing about. Talk about uncomfortable. I can't read a seismic line to save my life. I can't read a well log, and you don't want me anywhere near the wellhead. But this perpetual state of discomfort pushed me to rely on my instincts around backing great people. My currency was integrity, fairness, honesty, and reputation. Given the violent industry cycles, we had to survive a few near-death experiences, which we did with tenacity, wit, and some creativity, and became one of the largest and more successful investment firms. And along the way, I learned 3 very simple lessons about investing. First is simple. Be the kind of person that would make others proud if they could see you when they aren't in the room. Reputations are everything. Number 2, stay very far from the foul line. If you just rely on what is legal to guide, there's too much gray area in life, and that will be impossible. Have a moral compass, and don't be afraid to use it. And third, every relationship matters. If you treat every interaction, whether it's an email, a phone call, or even just a voice message, as one of a series of interactions, you'll take it much more seriously and invest a little more time. I wasn't afraid to ask the questions, and I wasn't afraid to try new things. And along the way, discomfort was simply replaced by uncertainty. When the industry cycled down, we didn't quit, and we stayed there until the strategy paid off. And then I discovered a new sensation, the great feeling that comes from service. I always felt fortunate to be in a community that emphasized service so often. In addition, just walking the halls here at SMU and seeing the names on the walls and buildings evokes a feeling that others who have passed through here have helped pave the way for us. I have felt this all over town, and I wanted to find ways to pay it forward. And along the way, I became quite active in the community. And then, something strange happened. With my son and daughter no longer at home to tell me my ideas were stupid, another chapter in my life opened up. It's amazing how smart I got once my kids went away to college. Back in the 80s and early 90s, I enjoyed talking baseball and the West Texas oil deals with the son of the 41st president when he moved to Dallas and became co-owner of the Texas Rangers. We had a lot to talk about back then. When he returned to town after his political career, I was happy to support the Bush Center here on the SMU campus, and I had no idea where it would lead. In 2016, after the prior CEO left to undertake a new endeavor, I got a call from that certain former president who asked that I consider serving. Happily and a bit uncomfortable, I agreed. And now around these principles of economic and political freedom, less government dependency, and a strong and compassionate country at home and abroad, we execute the strategy of developing leaders, advancing policy, and taking action to solve today's pressing challenges. I get to support the agenda of a former US president who served in very consequential times. However, I didn't have any background in his agenda. I wasn't in his administration, and I had never worked for a nonprofit. Of course, as an investor, I had some famously unprofitable transactions, but that's for a different speech. This time, the not-for-profit was by design. This was going to be different, but I had some confidence that I could do it, and the discomfort didn't bother me. In fact, I actually enjoy it. And now I'm able to hear firsthand what principled leadership is all about, and to see a leader who dealt with transformational discomfort. There are social ills in society for which we have biases and reactions and explanations and justifications, but do we have the empathy for the opposing views that a real leader needs to understand? For cohorts of which we are members, we are more forgiving and understanding than we are for communities to which we don't belong. As George W. Bush said in July of 2016 at the Dallas Memorial for the Slain Officers, too often we judge other groups by their worst examples while judging ourselves by our best intentions. Leaders must actually embrace this discomfort and lean hard against that slant while still standing true to what guides them. Real leadership involves increasing exposure to transformational discomfort and embracing its related challenges, being open to ideas that actually makes us uncomfortable, and then taking action. That's how conventional wisdom will change. Think of the scientific, technological, and social achievements that have evolved simply by challenging the way things were. And leaders evolve and push against that comfort. The challenge today, however, is that leadership has to become more intentional. Leadership starts small. It is 24/7, 365. It takes no time off. In a world of perpetual posts, individuals have a voice that can be loud. Phonies get exposed very quickly, and naysayers always get in their 2 cents. At the same time, small actions can go viral. Whether it's at a lunch table, the sidewalk, or an online conversation, it all matters. Real leaders don't take a break from the principles they believe in. And you all have been fortunate to have had the unique experience to watch a real leader in action, Gerald Turner. And being a university president can be a thankless job. But he leads with a masterful blend of wisdom, insight, compassion, and humor. His principled leadership is on display here 24/7, 365. It is a real treat, and SMU is fortunate to have a leader like Dr. Turner. Thank you, Gerald, for your example. And great leaders are skilled at dealing with discomfort, adapting to challenges, and if in need be, correcting course. While strategy and tactics can change, consistent principles serve us well as we practice our skills of resilience and renewal. In thinking about how discomfort actually is, don't just take my word for it. Check the authority on everything. Google. Larry Page, one of the co-founders of Google, was asked for a summary on how to change the world, to which he said, always work hard on something uncomfortably exciting. And now, in my spare time as an investor, I opened my mind to something new, a new industry, that of esports. I had no idea. When I was a kid, having graduated from Pong, I liked Space Invaders, Pac-Man, and asteroids, with a little Galaxian mixed in. Now I learned from people half my age about games today and was impressed with the skill and concentration and the sheer size of the electronic gaming industry. Who knew that an investment fossil like me could get sucked in? I have a real appreciation for the Guildhall graduates today. I have no idea how to play, nor did I even speak the vocabulary. In it, I am uncomfortably excited and have joined the other 380 million people worldwide who play or watch esports. I now am conversant with new terminology like PogChamp, Kappa, or dissing a noob. So as graduates today, you have a gift of having earned this degree from SMU, and it will help you navigate that discomfort, knowing when it's okay to minimize, when to respect, and when to embrace it. And remember, if at first you don't succeed, then skydiving probably isn't for you. Let the fog of the future excite you, tweet that, and live viral. Congratulations and thank you.